The wild and wacky edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I am Maurice Patton. That is Wade Neely, and we are coming to you from the Lee Company studios in our respective homes across southern Middle Tennessee. Good Wednesday to you all. Good Wednesday to you, Wade. It's hump day.
We made it. We made it. We are less than 24 hours from that sweet, sweet tip-off time from March Madness in earnest, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, there were games last night, one of which we'll be talking about. There are games tonight, but I think it really gets real with the Thursday games. I mean, the first four is fantastic, but Thursday is really what March Madness is all about, and from there forward. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to talking a little bit about that over the course of the next couple of hours here. Also going to visit. It's been a while since we've had TERESA Walker on the show, but we're going to have her on in the second hour, talking a little Titans, talking a little PREDS. Got to talk some PREDS, right?
They, my goodness, yep, just continue to perform at a crazy, crazy level. This is beyond kind of a fairy tale story almost at this point.
It's nuts. I mean, there's just no description for it. I mean, I don't follow hockey enough on a national level to know how much they're being talked about on a national level, but I certainly hope they are.
They're getting their due finally, and it's it kind of does tell you a little bit about the sitch, the fact that they've had to go on this big of a run. They've kind of just literally thrust their way into the conversation and
forced their way in. Yep. It's one of those things. If you keep doing well long enough, they have no choice but to talk about you, and so I think the Predators have kind of arrived at that point. As we typically do on Wednesday, we are going to visit with Heather Williams here, I guess in the next segment, actually. Talk a little NASCAR, talk a little Bristol, and whatever comes up after that. So I'm sure she'll be excited also, Wade, to talk about Andy Reid throwing out the first pitch at opening day for the Royals here coming up. So couple of her favorite things there, the Royals and the Chiefs in a match.
Two birds, one stone situation.
Absolutely. Again, some NCAA March Madness on hand, and it's been a while since we've really talked the business of college football, but we're going to need to dive into that because there's some news coming out of the Atlantic Coast Conference and the courts. There will be lawyers. So we will get to that. And again, it's Wild and Wacky Wednesday. We will be bringing you the wildest and wackiest stories from across the globe. And I'm sure there will be some mention of Florida at some point in that discussion. So stay with us in the last segment of the day as we get to that. So big show. Let's get it started, Wade, with yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the Rundown.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's kick off our rundown. Baseball scores from yesterday. It was Goodpasture 7, Alabama Christian Academy 0. Antioch was a 10-6 winner over Ezel Harding. Blackman knocked off Coffee County 2-0. Page put up 14 runs. Centennial posted 11. High-scoring game there. Again, 14-11 Page over Centennial yesterday afternoon. Clarksville 4, Clarksville Northeast 0. Columbia with a nice win, 12-2 over Marshall County. Middle Tennessee Christian wins a nail-biter 3-2 versus Columbia Academy. Richland 13-5 winner over Community. It was Cornersville 9, Mount Pleasant 4. Brentwood Academy a 4-1 win versus CPA. Moore County winning by 10 runs. 11-1 your score there over Culleoka. DCA a 6-2 victory versus the Middle Tennessee Monarchs. Friendship Christian takes it 2-1 versus Eagleville. Fayette County, Alabama 8. Westmoreland 0. Franklin put up 13 runs for Franklin as they went at 13-3 over Ravenwood. It was Zion Christian 8, Franklin Christian 2. Giles County all over Collinwood 17-0. And other scores in baseball, the last one I've got, Greenbrier 8, Grove, Oklahoma 5. Good win for Greenbrier and the Bobcats there last night.
Good win for Fayetteville last night in 5
yes.
innings. The Tigers down Hampshire 22-4. Hardin County with a 5-1 win over Loretto. It was Harpeth 10, Nashville Christian nothing. Hillsborough with a 16-0 win over Martin Luther King. Jenks of Oklahoma 6, White House Heritage 4, Lawson downs Overton 12-0. Lawrence County with a 15-6 win over Wilson of Alabama. It was Montgomery Bell Academy 8, Lipscomb Academy 5. Mountain Home out of Arkansas takes its matchup with Gallatin 7-3. Nolensville 10, Independence 6. Siegel blanks Oakland 4-0. It was Liberty Creek 6, Poteau of Oklahoma 1.
I'm not sure, partner.
Hendersonville 8, Pryor of Oklahoma 6. Riverdale downs Lebanon 9-3. It was Smyrna 10, Rockvale 1. Rossview 22, Springfield 4. Wayne County with a 9-1 win over Santa Fe. It was Spring Hill blanking Dixon County 4-0. Athens with a 6-2 win over Summertown. Summit edged Brentwood 4-3. White House Heritage 4, Trinity Presbyterian out of Alabama 3, Gallatin 8, Victory Christian of Alabama 6, Washington of Oklahoma 4, Greenbrier 3, University School of Nashville defeated Webb School 7-3, Maplewood 12, Whites Creek 9, and Wilson Central 3, Franklin County 1.
To the softball diamond we go. It was Centennial defeating Brentwood 2-1 last night. Columbia 5-0. They fall to Lincoln County. Lincoln County again a 5-0 win versus Columbia. Waverly 16, Fairview 8. It was Franklin 13, Ravenwood 3. Green Hill with a 3-2 win over Gordonsville. Henry County defeated Clarksville 2-0. Lexington, Alabama wins it 7-4 over Loretto. Franklin Road Academy defeated Middle Tennessee Christian 9-7. Giles County put up 19 runs, 19 of them in a 19-5 win versus Murfreesboro Central Magnet. Summertown edged Richland last night 3-2. Siegel 6, Blackman 2. Smyrna 16, Laverne nothing. Coffee County 13-0 over Spring Hill. And capping your softball scores from last night, it was Summit 5 and Page 1.
On the pitch, it was Webb School with a 2-0 win over Blackman. Harpeth blanks Cheatham County 5-0. Coffee County and Columbia Central played to a 1-1 draw. It was University School of Nashville 5, Columbia Academy 1. Agathos Classical defeated Community 5-2. Davidson Academy with a 6-1 win over Friendship Christian. Grace Christian 9, Middle Tennessee Christian nothing. Overton 2-1 over Hillsborough. Lawrence County defeated Loretto 3-1. Page 1, Murfreesboro Central 0. Oakland and Riverdale played to a 0-0 draw. Ooh, riveting. Rockvale 3, Siegel 1. Westmoreland with a 3-1 win over Rockwood. Laverne defeated Smyrna 2-0. Macon County and Springfield played to a 1-1 draw. It was Hendersonville 11, Siloam Springs of Arkansas 1, and East Hickman 3-2 over Richland. On the ice, as we mentioned earlier, the PREDS stay hot with an 8-2 win over the Sharks, their 15th straight game in which they have secured a point, which ties a franchise record, I do believe. So
Preds are on fire. Sharks going nowhere, but you got to beat the bad teams, and the Preds pummeled them last night, 8-2.
Absolutely.
Big win for Nashville. Baseball schedule. Some of these games are already underway. Our first 3 games on the docket underway. In fact, Westmoreland took on Berry Hill, Oklahoma this morning. That game began at 11:30. Also at 11:30, Hendersonville versus South Lamar out of Alabama. And then at 2 p.m., Westmoreland has now returned to the Diamond, taking on Bethel, Oklahoma. Games still to come later tonight. At 4:30, it'll be Summit at Brentwood. Also at 4:30, CPA at Brentwood Academy, MBA at Lipscomb Academy. Whites Creek travels to Maplewood. Now we get into the 6 o'clock window. Blackman is at Coffee County. Stewart's Creek is at Green Hill. Nolensville is at Independence. Gordonsville is at Lebanon. Rockvale is taking on Mount Juliet. And also at 6, Oakland is at Siegel. The favorite of everyone, the 6:15 start. It'll be Community traveling to Richland tonight as Community comes calling in Linville this evening. 6:30, Pope John Paul II is at Friendship Christian. Also at 6:30, Centennial at Page. And your final 2 games of the night beginning at 7, Gallatin will take on Washington, Oklahoma, and Dixon County will travel to Columbia.
2 o'clock, softball action. Milan and Riverdale will face off, followed by Lexington and Riverdale at 4. Mount Juliet and Blackman also play at 4. Christ Presbyterian visits Overton for a 4:30 start. Also, Antioch is at Laverne at 4:30. At 5, Spring Hill takes on visiting Lincoln County. Also, Creekwood travels to Waverly. 5:30, Westmoreland is at Heritage. I don't know if that's White House Heritage or Maryville Heritage. I'm assuming it's White House, but I'm not 100% sure. Check your local listings. 6 o'clock starts. Wilson Central at Centennial. Summit goes to Eagleville. Ezel Harding hosting Smyrna. Also at 6, Siegel and Milan will meet, as well as Mount Juliet and Oakland. At 8 o'clock, it's Lexington and Oakland, and Mount Juliet and Siegel. I believe those are part of the Southern Warrior Classic, which is taking place at various sites in and around Murfreesboro. On the pitch tonight, Harpeth is at Sycamore. Cross-county rivalry there over in Cheatham County. 7 o'clock first touch. Women's first 4, Columbia and Vanderbilt are playing at Virginia Tech. That's an 8 o'clock start on ESPNU. At 7, Alabama A&M and Austin P are playing in a invitational tournament. Is that the NIT or is that the CBI? Wade, I'm not sure.
Couldn't tell you on that one, partner.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. And in the association, the Memphis Grizzlies go west, taking on the Golden State Warriors. That's a 9 o'clock tip. You can see it both on ESPN and on Bally Sports, and that is your rundown. Top story brought to you, as always, by Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch offerings, as well as their hand-cut meats, and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. So Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And Wade, we talked a little bit about it yesterday. Baseball that matters actually took place this morning over in Seoul, South Korea, as the Los Angeles Dodgers opened the 2024 season officially with a 5-2 victory over the Padres.
And this was one like we joked on the show yesterday. You'd have to get up really early to check it out. And it was the Dodgers in kind of a close game, it looks like. Didn't get a chance to, believe it or not, I did not get up to check out regular season baseball at 5 a.m. But
I'm a little shocked and a little disappointed, actually, that you did not get up and watch that.
It's you don't want to peak too early, and getting up at 5 a.m. for regular season ball is a stretch for me. But I will say this also, it was really kind of a challenge to go to the box score on ESPN. They had more of the spring training games still listed than they did the official game from last night, but we did retrieve that. And it was a close game. Yu Darvish got the start for San Diego, and he goes a couple of innings. The Padres actually had the lead at the bottom of the third. Ohtani comes up late with a nice RBI, his first as a member of the Dodgers. They put up 4 runs in the 8th and win it 5-2. So, I mean, if you want to kind of deliver a semi-compelling game, a score that was, pretty close until the very end there, the Dodgers kind of rallying in the 8th inning to win. I think that's a pretty good success on opening night, and so they're going to play another one tomorrow.
They are going to play another one at 5 o'clock tomorrow. Wade, I do expect you to get up for that one since it's the series finale. Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani, each with a pair of knocks, each with an RBI in that win for the Dodgers. So Dodgers fans are excited about that one. Xander Bogaerts had 2 of San Diego's 4 hits. So, yeah, we've got baseball that means something, at least for those 2 teams. Everybody else starts up next week. But, yeah, again, they will finish up that series tomorrow tomorrow morning or tomorrow night, depending on where you are. And so,
yeah, and it's kind of weird, isn't it? They're only playing 2. I mean, why not play 4 or at least 3? But you get 2 games and kind of just enough to get your palate going, I guess, for regular season baseball? Whet your appetite a little bit.
I guess they kind of had to get over there and get settled in and get used to the time change and that kind of thing. It seems like they've been over there for a few days. Played some games against the national team, I think. Played a couple of Korean baseball league teams, so they've spent a little time over there, even though they're only playing 2 major league regular season games. They've been there for a bit, so I guess maybe it's just time for them to get back. And I don't know how they did this in terms of the rest of both of their schedules. Maybe each of them lost a home game. I don't know, but it's really fascinating when you start going international like that, especially when you're going across as many time zones as they did. So,
yeah, no, I guess realistically, this is the only way you could pull that off is at the start of the season. Trying to mix in that lengthy of a trip in the middle of the season would just be too chaotic, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean we've seen what, the Cardinals and the Cubs that went to
London, I believe. Yeah,
I think the Yankees and the Red Sox have been to London in midseason around June or so, but that's not as lengthy as you said, so it's probably not quite as much of a nightmare. But still, it's got to be a little bit of a pain to, change your routine the way you have to accommodate that kind of thing. So, gonna be interesting to see them when they get back stateside and how this impacts them. Hopefully it will impact them. Speaking as a Braves fan. Let's go ahead and take a break right here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. And when we come back, let's talk a little NASCAR with our NASCAR analyst, Heather Williams. Stay tuned. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers. Putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes. Wade Neely, Maurice Patton, and we are now joined by our NASCAR analyst, Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City. Heather, good Wednesday. I see you got your Chiefs red on.
It's actually pink, but my camera's having a little issues, you can see, because it's super grainy, so it's not shooting the best shot today.
Okay. All right. Well,
I'm also coming to you from my home.
Nice. I like
completing the triangle, as it were.
That's exactly.
Yeah, I'm going to take your word for it that's pink, but
it looks red. It absolutely looks red, but I promise you, it's the same color as that shirt that I have on in the picture you have.
Oh, okay. All right. Hey, want to talk to you obviously about some NASCAR, but I saw a tweet in the last couple of days. Apparently, Andy Reid is throwing out the first pitch for the Royals opener, and I know I know you did not miss that.
Yes, we're winning. We're absolutely winning the opener now. With Andy Reid on our side, how can we lose? Might be the only game we win all year.
Who are y'all playing?
We're playing the Twins.
Ooh.
That'll be a good game to start the year. Yeah,
it is. Big AL Central matchup right there, coming right out of the gate. Okay. All right. Well, good luck.
Well, I would say we need it, but the Royals actually made a few moves in the offseason. The biggest one, of course, keeping Bobby Witt Jr. So, things are looking up in Kansas City. It's been rough since 2015, but it's looking a little bit better this year.
Well, they got to do something to keep up with the Chiefs, right?
Well, yes, it's so funny how it's such a great sports town, but when the Chiefs were good, when the Royals were good, the Chiefs were not. They were, down towards their worst. And I would just like to, maybe experience one season where they're both good at the same time. It would be crazy.
And the thing about it, Heather, is in that division, it shouldn't be that hard.
No, it should not be that hard. But, I think the biggest thing for the Royals has been, they've got a new owner who took over right at COVID, right? So his first year as the owner was the COVID year. And I really think that kind of put them behind as far as like talent and bringing people in, because it's almost like they lost two full years of the rebuilding process. So, he's now, been doing this for 2 years, regular years. And you can see in the offseason, he was spending money and making deals. He wants to win. He's a Kansas City guy. So, I think it's going to happen.
Awesome. Wanting to win. Somebody got a big one Sunday at Bristol, right?
Yes, Denny Hamlin. I wrote about this years ago when I used to do a blog. How long ago this was, because nobody blogs anymore. Everybody podcasts now. But I used to do a racing blog. And Bristol is very much streaky, right? You'll hit on something and then you'll win a bunch of races in a row. And the latest person to do that is Denny Hamlin. He's won 3 races in the past 4 years since 2019 at Bristol, including the fall race and then this spring race. He's got it figured out, which, especially this past weekend with the craziness with the tires and just the insanity that went on with Bristol, to come out on top for a second straight time is pretty impressive.
Yeah, Heather, I'm watching the race this weekend right toward the end, and I kind of had to rub my eyes checking the leaderboard, and we ended up with was it 6 cars that finished on the lead lap? Is that correct? Because as I kind of kept scrolling through the standings, I was like, okay, they're behind, and then I started calculating, and I ran out of fingers and had to swap to my toes almost. Only people that were just left on the lead lap.
Yeah, it was old school Bristol for sure. People have wanted and begged and pleaded for old school Bristol, and I'm not necessarily a proponent of that. I hate only 5-6 cars on the lead lap. But you could not deny how entertaining this race was because of the excessive tire wear. It was causing people to have to pit under green flag runs that would normally not have to pit because they had no tires. If you go to my Twitter page and scroll back through the race, you'll see I took a picture of Denny Hamlin's tires after his first tire run. It is unbelievable. I mean, there was no rubber left on those tires. They were all cords. And you just don't normally see that kind of wear at Bristol. So it made things just fascinating because nobody knew what to do. The lap times were 2 and 3 laps slower, but people were passing. As you mentioned, there weren't a lot of cars on the lead lap. People were having to pit, and people were on all kinds of different strategies. And it just gave us that unpredictable factor that people love so much about super speedway racing or road course racing, but haven't gotten in this new car on the short tracks. I don't think that this should be the target. We need 30 laps before we're running out of tires. But if we can get it somewhere in the sweet spot between 60 and 75 laps before the tires start to wear, I think short track racing will go back to being what everybody clamors for, because this race was entertaining.
So, Heather, what creates that? Again, showing my ignorance to stock car racing, but
no, it's not showing your ignorance because they're not exactly sure what created it. They brought the exact same tire that they brought in the fall. They think it's because they were prepared to run what they call the damp weather tire package here at Bristol, which if it rained and the track was completely dry, they could go back to racing once the rain stopped. And when you use that package, you can't they put a traction compound on the track at Bristol called PJ1, which makes there'll be more than one lane. So cars can pass in different lanes. But when it rains, you can't use that because it basically turns the track into a big oil slick.
Yeah.
So instead of using the PJ1, they used resin on the track. And they think that the combination of this tire compound, the concrete at Bristol, and the resin was what was causing the excessive tire wear. But they're not exactly sure. They are going to be doing some testing of the tires and some looking back at the data to figure it out. But they're pretty sure that's what caused it. But if they're going to run the wet tire package, they have to have the resin. So they're probably going to have to bring a little bit sturdier tire. But as Denny Hamlin said in Victory Lane, you don't want to overreact to this too much because the racing was so good. You don't want to bring a rock hard tire that never wears because that takes all the fun out of it at that point.
54 lead changes?
Yeah, a record at Bristol. Wow. The old record was 40 in 1991, I believe. So that's what made it so fantastic. I mean, Ty Gibbs dominated in that he led a bunch of laps and he won both stages, but he wasn't managing the tires as well as the older guys were. So you thought maybe he had the best car, but you didn't know. He's a young guy out there running full speed, and it did end up biting him. He ended up, losing to guys that were better at controlling their tire wear. So the unpredictability of it and all those lead changes made it so much fun.
Denny Hamlin wins at Bristol, followed by Joe Gibbs' teammate Martin Truex Jr., Brad Keselowski, Alex Bowman, and Kyle Larson round out the top 5. Heather, any surprises in that top 5 per se?
Not when you look at how the race unfolded. Those are not the 5 that I would have said save Hamlin going into the race. It may be Larson, because Larson's very good at Bristol. But when it started to devolve or evolve, depending on your opinion on how the racing went, into a tire management, those are guys that all come from either dirt or short track backgrounds that are good at managing tires. They're older drivers. And I think when you take that all into consideration, if you had known going into the races, this is what kind of race it would be, those would be 5 guys that you would definitely have at the front for sure.
Tough day for Trackhouse. Ross Chastain comes in at 15, Daniel Suarez at 18.
Yeah, and Ross was not very good at qualifying either. He just was not very good from the start of the weekend. Not sure why. They just clearly didn't have as good a grasp on how to handle the tire wear as some of the other teams do. Both those drivers are they're not on the young side, but they're in the middle of the pack as far as age goes. So, just their ability to recognize what was happening and adapt, because tire wear really hasn't been a thing for a while in NASCAR. So I think that probably had as much to do with anything. I don't know that there's any reason to concern it. You just chalk it up to bad weekend, learn from it, because there's likelihood that some of this will go on when they come back to Bristol again in the playoffs, and just move forward. Both of them are outstanding on the road courses. So they are poised to have big bounce backs this week at COTA.
Heather, as we continue, and we've had 5 races, we've had 5 different drivers. And I guess my question is, whose turn is it this week as we pivot to the Circuit of the Americas here?
Well, there's so many guys, because there are so many guys that have turned into good road course racers. There was a time where in NASCAR, some teams would just give up, right? They would go find what they called a road course ringer, pull their primary guy from the car, stick a Boris Said or a Ron Fellows in the car, and let them run that race. Like, they didn't even try. But the way the points are set up now and the way that sponsorships are set up now, these drivers have worked really hard to all be really good road course races. So it opens it up. As I mentioned, both the track cars are drivers that are very good on the road courses. Ross got his first win with Trackhouse at COTA a couple of years ago. So, I would look for him to have a good race. I think Michael McDowell is really good on the road courses. He's a guy that gets up there. Chase Elliott really needs a bounce back. He has struggled ever since he came back middle of last year from his injuries by Chase Elliott standards. He's very good at COTA as well. But there's so many. Martin Truex Jr. is a good road course racer. Denny's a good road course racer. Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson. It's kind of wide open, but at COTA especially, that track is so technical. Older guys, again, are going to be in a better position. So I really like a Michael McDowell this weekend.
It's nice to see experience be a positive.
It definitely has been this year. It hasn't always shown up in the results, but last week at Bristol and this week at COTA, I think, the older guys do have a little bit of an edge.
Wade pointed out we've had 5 races. We've had 5 winners. Who do you think is going to be the first repeat?
I think that, let me see, who's won? I think that the 2 most likely candidates would probably be William Byron and Denny Hamlin, just because those are guys that win multiple races every year. And the tracks that are coming up, Williams doesn't have a great reputation as far as being an amazing road course driver, but all of his teammates are, so he certainly can step up to that. But after that, the races that are coming up are all very good races for both those drivers. So I would say one of them would be the most likely to be the first repeat winner.
That's interesting. The first winner and the most recent winner, right?
Yes. But that's just by happenstance, because, just for instance, William Byron's win at Super Speedways, he's not particularly been very good at Daytona. In fact, that was the first time he didn't have a DFS, did not finish in the Daytona 500, and he won. So he's much better.
If he can finish, he's
right.
money, huh?
He's money. But he's much better on the short tracks and the intermediate race tracks, which is what's coming up here after COTA.
Heather Williams from WCYB in Johnson City joining us here on Main Street Sports today as we're talking a little NASCAR. Anything else that we need to know about immediately as we head to Texas?
No, I mean, everybody's still buzzing about Bristol, and really people haven't really talked about much else. It's just really surprised so many people what happened with the tires. And it's funny because we talked about it last week, but I worked the qualifying for PRN, Performance Racing Network, which does the races on the radio for NASCAR. And you could see this story developing during qualifying. And we didn't really understand at the time how big this was. But you heard drivers on the scanner saying things like, "I'm feeling something at Bristol I have never felt before. Like, I've never felt this in the way my car drives." That was something that Ricky Stenhouse said on his lap times. Drivers were bailing in their second lap at Bristol. You see them bail a lot of tracks, but not Bristol, because you can usually gain speed on your second lap. Drivers saying the fall off from the beginning of practice to the end of practice is just incredible. Harrison Burton was the fastest in the second practice. He said, "My fastest lap came the first lap I ran out there, and then I was miserable the rest of the time I was out there." So you could kind of see this coming through practice. But I talked to Michael McDowell today, and he was like, that happens a lot during practice. We really thought once the tires started, the track started taking rubber, that it would go back to just being Bristol. And I should have brought it with me. I have a handful of rubber from the track. The rubber was just sitting on the track. Usually the track gets dark and it kind of grinds into the track. It was not taking rubber at all. It was just eating tires and grinding them up. It looks almost like shreds of sweater. It's crazy. It's incredible what the track was doing.
Obviously these are the best drivers in the world and they can handle a lot. But how you mentioned that the tires were down to the cords. How dangerous is that at those speeds?
It's dangerous, but at a place like Bristol, I mean, you're not going that fast to begin with compared to a lot of places. I mean, I say that, and then I'm about to say they're going, 120.
Right.
But they were slowing their lap times down by almost a second and a half. So they were going slow even by Bristol standards because of the tire wear, because you don't want to blow a tire and end up in the wall. You're probably not going to get hurt, but it's going to hurt your car and it's going to ruin your day. So it definitely affected the race because they were driving much slower than they normally would be.
I wouldn't want to be out there on those tires, no matter how fast we were going, if it sounds like they're getting chewed up like that.
Yeah,
for sure. It's the sensation of speed at Bristol is incredible. I have driven the track a couple of times. I took my mom up there. She got to drive the track, and we were actually joking about it this weekend because she's like, I almost posted that video. She's like, but I was going so slow. But you don't realize how slow you're going in the car. You feel it's like Ricky Bobby in Talladega Nights, where you're driving and all of a sudden the cars go by. You're like, what was that? Because you think you're flying and you're going like 30 miles an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the fastest you drove, Heather? That would
At
be
Bristol?
Yeah.
45 miles an hour. That's it.
That
and
would be awesome.
My knuckles were white the whole time.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, it's not only the sensation of speed around Bristol, but the banking. When you're going through the corners, you literally feel like your car's going to flip because you're angled like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I guess that does add something that you don't necessarily get on I-40 coming this way from Knoxville, right? Yeah. So
when I drove to Daytona, I was slow at Daytona too, especially by Daytona standards. But I did break like 120 at Daytona. But at Bristol, you feel like you're going 120 when you're going 30. It's wild, the feeling of the sensation of speed and the G-forces on you. I've done ride arounds in Bristol at full speed, and it's crazy.
And as a guy who thinks he likes to drive fast, that's clearly a different situation, huh?
It's different than going, 90 down the interstate. Not that I've ever done that, because
not that you've ever done that. No,
everybody makes fun of me for driving like a grandma. I absolutely drive like a grandma, but it's a completely different feeling.
That's awesome. Heather Williams, you can find her at Sports Heather. You can find her at WCYB_Heather. She's with WCYB TV out of Johnson City, and she is gracious enough to join us on Wednesdays to talk NASCAR and a little Chiefs and Royals. Heather, we appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks, guys. Always fun.
Thank you, Heather.
All righty. Hey, when we come back here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, Virginia, got to talk about it. Got to. So
do we have to?
Yeah, we're going to step up to the plate and deal with it. So come back with us here to the Lee Company Studios after this break.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers, putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, When it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA. With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. Wade, I think it was yesterday when I asked you. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was yesterday. If you knew that you were going to win a national championship, but you first had to lose as a 1 seed to a 16 seed, would you be in for that?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, and I would be.
Okay. Well, would you be in for this? Would you be in for losing as a 1 seed to a 16, and then in the 4 tournaments after that national championship, well, one of those 4 tournaments you don't make. The other 3 you lose in the opening round each year, and you lose one of those in the first 4. Meet Virginia.
Call me crazy. I still might sign up for that, but flags fly forever. But man, that is pushing the limits right there. Because yeah, that wow, they continue to kind of lay eggs, as we've mentioned a time or two here in the month of March since winning that national title 5 years ago.
Besides the national title, they are 0-4 in the NCAA tournament.
It's like we just talked about with NASCAR, right? Who's our driver if he finishes?
Oh, William Byron?
If he wins a game, if Virginia wins a game, look out.
They're going to win it all.
Yeah.
There you go. If you can pick your bracket after Virginia plays, you may be in a little bit better shape, because if they win that opener, you got an idea of what they're going to do from there. I did not get to see the game last night, or I did not have to see the game last night. I'm not sure which, but I mean, I saw on various social media channels where folks were literally turning the game off. Literally, I can't watch this, and understandably so. Apparently, across the end of the first half and the start of the second half, Virginia missed 19 straight shots.
Oh. I didn't check it out either, and it was it's easy to say this after the fact, obviously, but it was kind of just one of those. I really had no desire, which is kind of sad because I think Colorado State is a good team, and as we saw, they are more than capable of handling a team, regardless of what their pedigree may indicate. But I really just had no interest in watching a first four game that featured Virginia. You know, we talked about should they have even gotten into the tournament, and it's just kind of
the answer is no.
No is pretty much the answer. Everybody's pretty much in agreement there. But I mean, they shoot 14 of 56. They're 3 of 17 from three. They're only 11 of 17 at the free throw line. I mean, it was just another classic Virginia stinker. And, you know, like I said, I might still take that title if you guarantee me that they're going to lose the year before as the one, and then they're going to lose the next four after.
Including a first four loss.
Yeah, I still might take that, but my goodness, I'm making it difficult on their fan base. And it's safe to say anybody that was still clinging kind of maybe as a pseudo fan of theirs after that magical run in 2019, I think all the good karma's gone out the window. They're not getting any benefit of the doubt anymore.
None. Colorado State won 67-42, by the way.
Yeah.
But and I'm not sure that it was that close from what it sounds like. And so, you know, for all of the folks that are talking about expanding the tournament and the feeling that an expansion of the tournament is going to be more beneficial to the, quote, power conferences, I give you Virginia. Is that what you want to see?
No, that was an ugly display, and not the greatest of nights for the first four, at least to get things started. You know, Wagner does eke out a 3-point win versus Howard. The 16 seed, though, unfortunately, that game kind of always fails to kind of capture a lot of luster, just because unless you're playing Virginia, I suppose, or Purdue, you're probably going to end up being a sacrificial lamb in the next game. So tonight's game, though, however, we had Joe on yesterday, and he said he likes what Grambling brings to the table, and Montana State's a pretty decent team. They're a small favorite coming in, but I think the real big game, I think the jewel of the whole first four is going to be this Colorado-Boise State game that comes in the nightcap tonight.
Yeah, that one feels like that it's almost fitting that that's the last game of the first four, because it feels like that one's going to feel most like a real NCAA tournament game. So
Virginia, by the way, Virginia lost by 34 to Virginia Tech, lost by 25 to Duke, 24 to Wisconsin, 23 to Memphis, and 22 to Notre Dame earlier this year. Over 8 days, this is an article on NCAA.com I'm reading this from. Over 8 days in the course of February, their team totals included 49 points, 41 points, and 44 points in 3 games.
And that's an NCAA tournament team.
Not by my eye test partner.
The selection committee should get roasted for this. I feel like they are, but whatever they get, it almost feels like it's not enough.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy about this is as horrific as their offense is and frustrating as it is to watch at times, the crazy part about all this, they were second in the country in fewest turnovers, and they were third in defense, scoring defense, and assist to turnover ratio. So they're taking care of the ball, and they're playing good D. That just shows you how bad the offense as its own unit is.
Yeah, I mean, if you are turning it over that infrequently, and yet you're scoring that infrequently. And how do you explain that? Can't shoot.
I mean, you would think at least
if you're not turning it over, you're getting shots, right?
Getting shots. And I mean, I'm thinking if you're limiting your own turnovers, you're probably forcing obviously some of your own, and presumably some of those got to lead to some, you would think, easy buckets, but I guess maybe not.
Theoretically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That is some ugliness there coming out of the Atlantic Coast Conference. And again, if you are a mid-major fan, then you kind of loved it because you like seeing a power 4, 5, 6 conference team taking that kind of a thrashing. It's a little perverse, I guess.
In a way it is. And I'll tell you this, we've kind of spent a lot of this segment talking about Virginia, obviously, but Colorado State, don't sleep on them as a team that could give Texas a little run for their money
right.
in this next game now.
Yeah, that's the toughest thing about this conversation is it does tend to maybe take a little bit away from the Rams and what they've been able to do and like you said, what they may bring to the table tomorrow night over in Charlotte against the Longhorns. So Rodney Terry and company need to be on their toes for this team. The final at-large bid went to Colorado State. They're 25-10 now with this win. One of 6 teams out of the Mountain West. So, I mean, the Mountain West kind of stood up and this is clearly a pretty good team. I mean, but
Texas currently only favored by 2.5 heading into tomorrow night's game. So I
wonder what that was prior to.
Yeah. What you could have potentially have gotten before last night's game is Mountain West again. Joe kind of mentioned yesterday, and you just touched on it here. They'll have a chance tonight too with Boise State to make some noise, and that's going to be, like you said, the kind of main event. Just on paper, this year's first four didn't seem like it kind of quite lived up to the hype as maybe in years past. Obviously there's no local connection, no Tennessee in there this year, like in years past. But I think Colorado and Boise State tonight, hopefully, will kind of be that final little game that we go to bed and we tuck ourselves in and we're saying, all right, now we get to really do this thing tomorrow.
Now we're ready. We're ready. Yeah, that the kind of the appetizer there to some degree. One thing it did though also was prove that Colorado State probably had no business being in a first 4 game.
That is fair.
Yeah.
And obviously you watched that last night with Virginia, and you're obviously one of those teams that got left out regardless of how big you are, whether you're Indiana State or a bigger program, and you're sitting there thinking, hell, we could have done better than that. I mean,
Indiana State, in particular, I'm sure that there are some other Pitt. There had to be a bunch of folks watching that and going, are you kidding me? Yeah. So, Wade, as we get ready for tomorrow, I don't have a bracket in front of me, but what are you looking for, particularly out of those early games?
Early games tomorrow, and I've yet to fill mine out. I'm going to fill mine out this evening. I kind of cheat a little bit. President Obama he just showboats a little bit, and he puts his bracket out with the first 4 teams already circled. That's I kind of old school. I still wait to see
who the first 4 teams, who comes out of the first 4. Yeah.
It's like Joe said, you kind of really base it all off the matchups. And you kickstart things tomorrow. I think Duquesne and BYU is going to be a decent game in the sense that BYU, some folks thought maybe maybe would make a little run at the Big 12 tournament. They kind of crashed and burned. Duquesne's not that bad of a squad. Obviously, you got Michigan State and Mississippi State. Talk about a true kind of classic 8-9 matchup. Vegas has Mississippi State as a 1-point underdog. Can't really get much closer than that. And then Who knows how the game is going to go? Arizona is a team that a lot of folks are saying is going to rebound and make a nice little run. But give me the Long Beach State. I'm going to watch that game just to see the theatrics at play there with the coaching situation.
That's absolutely a fascinating situation. You know, we talked about it a little bit yesterday with Dan Monson and his tenuous coaching tenure there with Long Beach. Yeah, that's interesting. And Arizona, I guess, is another team that kind of has to be on their toes, even as a 2 seed, just because this Long Beach team is obviously playing with house money at this point. So
right, and in a weird way, if I'm a coach of some of these other high-profile teams, I'm looking at last night's game, and who knows if it'll take hold. But that's a chance to say, all right, hey, if you take any team lightly, you're going to end up like Virginia, and you're going to get bounced. And another one too. This will tip off right around showtime tomorrow. But Morehead State and Illinois will get it on. I don't know that Morehead State really has enough gas to kind of go with Illinois, but I think they've got a decent team. And got to give a quick shout out. You mentioned yesterday, and we didn't get a chance to sneak it in, but top 5, you had Tyus Edney as your top 5. Mm-hmm. A young Scott Combs was on the Missouri bench as a player back in the day.
Watching that.
And Tyus Edney Tyus is definitely a 4-letter word in the Combs household. And so he's now the associate head coach at Morehead State. We got to run into him at the state tournament last week in Murfreesboro, and they've got a good team, but I just don't know that they will have the horses to go with Illinois. Illinois is favored by double digits. And then in a game that will also tip off while we're on air tomorrow, how about South Carolina and Oregon? I think it was Joe yesterday had mentioned that Oregon was one of those teams that had won 20 games for the past 13 years, one of only 2 or 3 teams that had achieved such a feat. Mm-hmm. South Carolina is about a 1 to 1.5 point favorite in that game. So Vegas thinks it's going to be close, even though that game is technically an 11-6 matchup tomorrow. That tips off around 3 o'clock.
You mentioned Morehead State. Preston Spradlin's name is being knocked around for some of these coaching openings that exist and may exist later, if not maybe in this initial wave, maybe when some dominoes start to fall. And I think he's being mentioned in connection with a certain Southeastern Conference vacancy in Nashville.
That would certainly be intriguing. And then real quickly, kind of wrapping that up, games that are on while we're on air tomorrow. And this is the one where sometimes Vegas sometimes maybe knows or doesn't know something more than what you would think. 10 seed Nevada is favored over 7 seed Dayton tomorrow by 1.5. So if you're looking to pull an upset tomorrow, Vegas is at least pointing you in the direction of maybe Nevada and the Wolfpack there.
I did not realize until maybe here in the last 24 hours who Nevada's coach is. Steve Alford.
Oh, yeah. Well, the man that's got some tournament experience, to say the least.
He does, both on the floor and on the sidelines. So, yeah, Nevada may be a team to watch there. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun couple of days, a fun weekend. Looking forward to seeing how some of these games go. We didn't talk a whole lot about UT. Probably get to them more tomorrow ahead of their game late tomorrow night. So, we need to go to a break, but I don't know if we have a producer or not. Wade, do you?
I haven't laid eyes on Mark in just a moment. And, yeah, he's here. He's
here? Okay, cool.
He's back in the saddle.
All right, then let's go to a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we will be joined by friend of the show, TERESA Walker, talking a little gridiron and a little ice. So stay with us when we come back.
Welcome to Protein Snack Shop, your destination for healthy and delicious low-carb snacks. Our specialty lies in providing protein-packed desserts that are perfect for those following a keto diet. Our products are made with high-quality ingredients, ensuring that you can satisfy your cravings without compromising your health goals. From a variety of flavors and options to choose from, you can enjoy guilt-free snacking while staying on track with your fitness journey. Don't miss out on our limited time offer. Discover Protein Snack Shop today.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers. Putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Hour 2 of Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Producer Mark, nice bumper music there, man. Liking that. Let's go to the queen of Nashville sports media, TERESA Walker, now here with us. TERESA, where do we want to go? We want to go Preds first. We want to go Titans first. It's your call.
We can go Preds. We can go Titans. I mean, Mo, I'm going to correct you there, sir. Queen of Tennessee sports, baby.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry.
I'm going to be in Memphis tomorrow for the NCAA tournament. I mean,
I'm sorry.
Come on, baby. I mean, is there
people?
anyone...
Most people, you refer to them as a queen, and they would be happy with that. TERESA Walker not among those, clearly. So anyway.
I learned a long time ago I better take what I can get.
Well, at any rate, TERESA Walker of the Associated Press joining us here on Main Street Sports Today. Let's talk Preds, because 13-0-2 in their last 15, and I think I knew, but I had to go back and look at the schedule again. This all started with that 9-2 debacle against Dallas, and pretty ironic that they went out and hung 8 last night on San Jose.
4 in the final 10 minutes. I mean, it was like
2 and 30 seconds at one point.
Throw the towel at that point. I mean, running clock, I mean, come on. But I covered that 9-2 debacle, and I left the arena thinking, I felt like the Duke brothers, sell, go, youth. I mean, it looked like this team was just, upside down and couldn't find its way out of a paper bag. Who knew that taking away a U2 show at the Sphere in Vegas could be such a motivating, mobilizing centrifuge for this team. But it's impressive what they've done since then. And I mean, Thursday night, tomorrow night against, I think it's Detroit.
No,
They
Florida.
could set Florida. And one of
They
these
go to
teams.
Florida tomorrow before Detroit on Saturday.
Well, what can I say? I've spent today getting ready for doing some Olympic prep and preparing for the NCAAs in Memphis. And I'm sorry, but these teams are playing in that. I understand why they're trying to keep people close together. I get that. It's smart, but it's like, who's in the West? Who's in the South? East, West? I don't know who's on third base. Okay. So it's like I'm checking it twice, 3 times, 4 times. I'm a lady.
There we go. Hey, I asked Wade. I've asked him a couple of times here over the last couple of days. Actually, if would you take a national championship after losing as a 1 seed? You know, would you take 13 of 15 with 2 overtime losses? But you got to get beat by 7 goals first. I mean, would you sign up for that?
Hey, it's an 82-game season. Whatever it takes to embarrass, motivate, provide. I mean, the next day they were on the ice and they were doing some drills that, I mean, using some items at practice that honestly I'd never seen. And now I don't go to a lot of practices, but especially since the camera phone came into existence. I mean, I've seen a lot of videos from Predators practice, and they give credit to Andrew Brunette. They did some things, and it almost felt like and my son played hockey. You're one-time former intern, and I never saw their teams, whether it was pee-wee, midget, high school hockey. I've never seen those kind of almost like the hockey version of blocking dummies on the ice, and the thing about hockey is they ain't standing still when you're skating against them. So, I mean, maybe it was I don't know what Andrew Burnett was trying to accomplish, but goodness knows it worked. And, this is a guy this is his first full year as a head coach in the NHL. He took over on an interim basis with the Florida Panthers and had tremendous success with them. But this is his team, and it's been his team since he was given the job last summer. And let's face it, that 9-2 loss was as much a challenge for Andrew Brunette as it was for the Predators. And it seems at this point, regardless of how this season ends, it seems like he's answered the bell as well as they have.
Yeah, and Teresa, as we kind of come into the home stretch here for this NHL season, the Preds have essentially just thrust themselves in the national conversation, and not a lock. Obviously, they haven't clinched it, but they are all but assured at this point, unless things really go sideways, of making the playoffs. And I'm just kind of curious, in your mind and what you've seen and what you've heard, have we kind of reached the ceiling or the peak of what this team is capable of, or now can they bust through to a potential another level and really maybe get fans kind of excited in the postseason down the stretch here?
Hey, Wade, at this point, I went into the season thinking if they could make the playoffs, that would probably be the height for them. The way they've played in this point streak shows that the roof ain't got no ceiling, baby. I mean, that's the thing. Get in the playoffs. When UC Saros is playing this way, and Roman Josi, I mean, he's making an incredible case to be a Norris Trophy winner again. Philip Forsberg, and more importantly, you're getting scoring from beyond the top line. And those 2 stars, that's the key to what this team has been accomplishing. I mean, when big sexy Michael McCarron is getting a couple of goals, and I mean, that's what makes them a threat. But when UC Saros is, and shoot, Kevin Lankinen, I mean, the last time they truly, had a chance and were hot going into playoffs, then they lost UC Saros. And then the last playoff appearance, they got swept. First time, only time in franchise history that's happened. They play this way, they can do anything possible. And I'm going to reference the St. Louis Blues. They were last in the league and the calendar flipped and they flipped a page and went on a run to the cup. So it's all about getting hot, staying hot. But if this team plays this way through the end, hey, baby, nothing. I mean, I hate to reference 2017, but that as well as what the Blues did in 19 shows that a team, yes, can get hot, can keep it going, and can go as far as they want. And they do have some skill pieces that allow them to do that on this roster.
Well, and the one thing that seems constant through some of these quote-unquote Cinderella runs in the Stanley Cup playoffs over the last 2 decades worth, if you have a hot goalie, it seems like that alone can sometimes be enough to save you or keep you in a couple games, and then you just somehow scrap and claw your way to a victory, and next thing you know, you've won a series or 2.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, well, 2017 is proof for what this franchise did on the back of Pekka Rinne. I mean, he literally carried them to the Stanley Cup final. And, UC Saros, I mean, it was so funny. I was doing some work last night prepping for the NCAAs. And so I was just kind of keeping an eye on the game through social media. And I saw some early tweets. Is this a game that Saros is going to have to pull out of the fire for him? And, it looked like it, except for the final 4 minutes, it's like, or 10 minutes when they just went crazy. I mean, I think even fans got a little tired. It's like, okay, we're ready to go home now. You can quit scoring. We're good. As a Cubs fan who watched way too many 2021 games in July against the Phillies, it seems, back in the day, save a couple of those for the next game. But you can't carry them in your pocket. I wish you could, but they do have that component. Saros has shown that he can stand on his head, that he can be hot for a long time. And I think there's something to him. I mean, think about it. After that 9-2 debacle, people were like, I was in that group. Go ahead and trade UC Saros, get what you can, start rebuilding. And if Saros heard that and is going to, decided to take it like, let me show you what I can do. I mean, he did learn from Pekka, it's like, this is my team and I'm going to show you how. And so if he can do that, yes, they are absolutely capable of doing that. And that's what makes it so much fun. That said, here I thought I was going to have a relatively quiet April and May, and just watch them mess that all up before I have to go to Paris for the Olympics this year.
Before you have to go to Paris for the Olympics this year. Had to get that in, didn't you? Teresa Walker of the Associated Press.
What can I say?
Yeah, let's shift gears just a second, because as much of a point of discussion as the Predators have made themselves here in March, so have the Tennessee Titans. You've covered this team as the queen of Tennessee sports media. You've covered this team from its arrival. Have they ever been this active in free agency?
They have. I mean, let's think back. I mean, there was the period when they were rebuilding and they brought in some guy named Kevin Mawai, David Thornton, Chris Hope. Remember those key pieces of what ended up being the next foundational stretch of success for this team. So it goes in spurts, and it certainly helps that the NFL salary cap is the highest it's ever been, and it's higher than they were expecting it to be this year.
And they already had a lot of room.
Exactly. So now I still think that there's some things to happen. I mean, L'Jarius Sneed, yes, he was tagged by the Kansas City Chiefs, but and first it looked like maybe the Colts were trying to get there, and now there's all sorts of scuttlebutt about, are the Titans in on that? I'll just say that before the tampering period began, I said there was one guy I was going to target, I mentioned Sneed's name to somebody. As somebody, why not? You've got Jeffrey Simmons on that front line, Harold Landry, Arden Key. Yes, you've got a couple of spots to fill on either side of them, but back end had to be bucked up. And Sneed absolutely could be that piece. They've got Roger McCreary. They've done little bits in here and there. And I like Lloyd Cushenberry. I like some of the, hey, Calvin Ridley, That was a strong move by the Titans and Rand Carthon. Absolutely love it. Now, guess what? You know who that puts pressure on? Traylon Burks. It's like, I know that injuries have been a big issue for him his first 2 years, but it's like, hello, there's DeAndre Hopkins, there's Calvin Ridley. You've got to compete if you want playing time. And if and this might actually slide him over to the slot where he was so effective at Arkansas. So, Will Levis has got some pieces to work with, and so does Brian Callahan with this offense. But they still need to help fix some on that defensive side. Last year the draft was all on offense essentially. You can't really do there's still a couple more pieces I'd like to see added on defense before they turn their attention solely to the draft. Why not try and see if you can swing for the fences a little bit and go get Snead?
Yeah, and Teresa and Mo and I have discussed, so much of this offseason has kind of been offensive centric, but you make a great point when, you still got to kind of shore up the defense. It's a two side of the ball type game. And I'm with you in the sense that the Titans still have some holes to fill. And is it correct to say or fair to say that this team is obviously not done making moves, and maybe they're not going to be major splashy moves, but there are still some quality pieces, I guess, kind of like you maybe just spoke about a little bit, that can still be available and can still fit in, even though they may not be a flashy or kind of sexy pick here down the stretch of free agency.
Well, Wade, that's the thing. We're in that second wave of free agency. Okay. There were a lot of, those big names went. I mean, hey, did anybody expect Ridley? I mean, that was one that kind of came out of left field, and it's like that was a whoa kind of moment, right? And that was a big move last Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday, the SEC tournament. I think today's Wednesday, right?
Today is Wednesday, yes.
Good. Oh, that's right. I'm leaving for Memphis first thing in the morning. So, it's like, today they announced officially the signing of Nick Folk. And Sebastian Joseph, drop the day. He doesn't want to use that anymore. So, but he's a defensive lineman, a piece. Will he be a Denico Autry? Well, guess what? I know that there's some Titan fans upset that Aziz Al-Share and Autry are now down in Texas, but guess what? Sometime, I think Rand saw what he needed to see, and he knows what he wants to spend, and he knows who he's targeting at this point. So there will be guys signed, not just through this week, next week. There's going to be guys signed the first week of May, because DeAndre Hopkins, remember that guy? He signed right before training camp. So there are some pieces out there that they're floating kind of under the wire, so to speak, just because it's like, wait a minute, he hadn't been signed yet. They get to be choosy too.
Right. Teresa Walker of the Associated Press joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Teresa, you were mentioning that a cornerback is probably on the radar. Now, they got the guy from Cincinnati, right? Awuzie.
I saw him try to pronounce that with Mike Keith, so I'm just going to call him the cornerback from Cincinnati.
There we go.
Whose name I will be practicing. Chidobe Awuzie.
Yeah.
Chidobe. Anyway, a veteran cornerback that Brian Callahan is very familiar with.
Right.
There we go. And so they've got that. They've got McCreary, but they still have to do some pieces, because I love this. The picture that we pulled to go with the Calvin Ridley story. You know who he was beating in that picture? Sean Murphy Bunting, is he signed with anybody at this point? So yes, they do need to add some more depth to that secondary and safety. No offense to Amani Hooker, I'd like to see some more depth there. And as much as I like Elijah Molden, he's a guy who has yet to show he can stay healthy through an NFL season. So secondary is absolutely an area they've got to work on getting some more help in. And it might not be a veteran name that you're very familiar with.
I saw a name over the last few days, and tell me how realistic it is or how ridiculous it is. Adoree Jackson.
Well, it's not totally ridiculous because Mike Vrabel's no longer the head coach. And Adoree Jackson has a track record that he has established. He left the Titans when they let him go, and didn't pick up his 5th-year option, let him leave, and he has now played and done well with the Giants. God bless him. So, and it's a whole new, it's a new GM, new coach, so things like that helps. And there wouldn't be the first time somebody left this franchise and came back under other management. Okay. I mean, Steven Jackson played for this franchise, was an assistant coach for this franchise, left, and is now back as an assistant coach with this franchise. It happens. I mean, there's only 32 teams in the NFL. That said, I'm not so sure I'm bringing in Adoree counting on him to be a starter, because I think he was a 2018 draft pick, if I'm remembering correctly, maybe 17, but let him play, let him compete. Can he be a starter? Or is he just a guy who's giving you some strong depth?
Hey, Teresa, before we let you get out of here, I got to ask you, obviously you said you're heading to Memphis. We had kind of high hopes for this regional, and I saw a tweet that reminded me of this. If you're the mayor or in charge of tourism for the city of Memphis, are you not kind of bummed a little bit with the draw? Baylor versus Colgate, Clemson versus you do get New Mexico, who I do think is a really good team. Nebraska, Texas A&M, and then Houston Longwood. Do any of those teams just really light a fire underneath you? We know you're a consummate professional and you're going to do a great job, but from a fan standpoint, do you really get fired up about that if you're in charge of tourism in the city of Memphis?
No. I mean, Houston is a former American foe of the
so they're not going to get a lot.
Tigers.
They're not going to get a lot of love in Memphis, are they?
No, they're not. And I think I'm going through all my notes and compiling them, and I think Clemson lost in December to the Tigers, December 16th. One of the teams playing there lost to Memphis, so they've got some experience in FedEx Forum. And, but it's like, maybe you're hoping, go root for New Mexico, Richard Pitino. Yeah, there's no Memphis fans that, still hate Rick Pitino from his time, at Louisville or Kentucky. I mean, memories are long in Memphis, okay?
Memories are long in Memphis. And here's a question. With them not making the tournament, what kind of turnout are you expecting? I mean, between the Tigers being obviously down and the Grizzlies being down, what is the affinity for basketball at any level in Memphis right now?
Well, Nebraska sold out their allotment of tickets, so that's one good thing for them. And if I'm Nebraska fans, I'm coming if only to try and find Trev Alberts, the new Texas A&M AD, who was introduced on Monday. Think about this. The committee has got a devilish sense of humor here, right? The storylines. Not only did they pit the Nebraska and A&M men, also the women in the first round. I mean, both on Friday. I mean, Trev Alberts, if I'm you, I'm staying in a suite and I'm keeping a low profile this weekend. Yeah. You talk about taking the money and running from your alma mater. So, and I get to watch. Apparently, Nebraska brings a guy who's been called the Japanese Steph Curry, and I'm Kasai Tominga. So he's a really good 3-point shooter. So if the Japanese fans in Japan, they're live streaming this game free in Japan, just so Japan can keep an eye on a native son over there for this game. So there's some interest. I just have no clue yet how much is going to actually be in Memphis.
Yeah, Samurai Steph, they call him.
That step back three is wet. I'm telling you. I saw some clips on him. Yeah, so that could be fun. Might be worth it. Teresa Walker heading down I-40 tomorrow. Y'all get out of her way. Appreciate
Just don't tell
you.
them what kind of car I'm driving.
No. You'll be all right. We will catch up with you soon. We appreciate it. And like I said, be safe, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Sounds good. And hey, if you don't have it yet, download the free AP News app. You can get all the news you need for free.
I've got it on my phone.
You should. Everybody
I
should.
do. Absolutely.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Hey, when we come back here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, as we said earlier, there will be lawyers. There's another Atlantic Coast Conference team taking issue with some things. We'll tell you who it is and what it is when we come back to the Lee Company studios after this. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Welcome to Protein Snack Shop, your destination for healthy and delicious low-carb snacks. Our specialty lies in providing protein-packed desserts that are perfect for those following a keto diet. Our products are made with high-quality ingredients, ensuring that you can satisfy your cravings without compromising your health goals. From a variety of flavors and options to choose from, you can enjoy guilt-free snacking while staying on track with your fitness journey. Don't miss out on our limited time offer. Discover Protein Snack Shop today.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers. Putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Welcome back to the Wild and Wacky Wednesday edition. There we go. Of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. In our next segment, we are going to bring you Wild and Wacky Wednesday, the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest stories from across the globe. And I feel quite confident that there will be something somewhere involving Florida, just because that's the way things go. But for now, speaking of Florida,
yeah,
Clemson is joining Florida State in taking legal action against the Atlantic Coast Conference, filing suit yesterday in a South Carolina court yesterday, challenging the league's right to charge schools to leave, according to an article from the Associated Press.
Mm-hmm.
Get the app. The complaint says the ACC's, quote, exorbitant $140 million exit penalty and the grant of rights used to bind schools to a conference through their media rights should be struck down. Each of these erroneous assertions separately hinders Clemson's ability to meaningfully explore its options regarding conference membership, to negotiate alternative revenue-sharing proposals among ACC members, and to obtain full value for its future media rights, the school said in the lawsuit. So, just like the NCAA is really under fire from a number of different directions, so is the ACC suddenly. Now, Clemson hasn't said that they're leaving, hasn't given any kind of notice of such, but I would think that getting that exit fee down to a more reasonable number would be the precursor to certainly them exploring that.
Yeah, and isn't this kind of so fascinating how this whole situation is just playing out right before us? We're seeing the SEC and Big Ten kind of really try and pull away from the rest of college football in particular, although we're seeing it kind of elsewhere as well. But now schools like Clemson and Florida State, it's kind of fascinating to me in the sense that whether it's the conference or the NCAA, we kind of just threw these rules and these terms and these contracts out without really much of a challenge. And because the schools so desperately needed the NCAA and desperately needed the conferences, they kind of just went along with it. And now all of a sudden the tables have turned and they kind of have realized, to me at least, it seems like they've got more bargaining power. And when you kind of put it up to the metal of a court or a high court, who knows how this is going to end up, you know? I mean, it seems like the NCAA and conferences kind of just made these rules and regulations kind of, you know, hey, we're the big boss in town. And then now that all of a sudden the guns have been drawn on the other side, it's up to the courts to kind of determine. And it kind of just feels like everything is going to end up siding with Florida State and Clemson, at least to me. I'm no legal expert, but it just kind of just the vibe just feels like that's where we may be headed here.
You know, it feels like you said, the NCAA and the conferences kind of bluffed their way into all of this power, and all of a sudden the schools are realizing, how much do we really need them, and how much do they need us, and how much have we undervalued ourselves?
Yep.
So, and it's kind of a chickens coming home to roost kind of thing, it feels like, to some degree. Clemson and Florida State are the only Atlantic Coast Conference schools to reach the 14 college football playoff since its 2014 inception.
And I was just getting ready to say, it feels like if you're one of those schools, and it's just those two at this point, but if you're one of those schools that kind of has gotten a ticket to the high school dance, if you will, and kind of you're one of the cool kids, or you're in with the in crowd, it seems like, yeah, you have got a whole lot more power than maybe you ever imagined. And if you're not one of those kids that were invited to the high school dance, I'm not really sure what happens to you guys because it seems like there's just a power grab going on between the big dogs at the moment.
I think that's a very real question that's going to have to be answered at some point. What if you are among the have-nots, which is roughly half, probably, of the ACC, certainly a portion of the SEC, certainly a portion of the Big Ten, you know, because even as you talk about it just means more, there are some schools within that realm that it does mean more to than others. And for those others, things could get ugly.
Yeah, it feels like these legal precedents are really going to kind of pave the road for whatever path we end up going down, right? It just feels like a decision here. We saw, we've talked about, was it Dartmouth basketball with unionization a couple of weeks ago. It just feels like for the first real time, and you go back to even our discussion about the video game and the Ed O'Bannon lawsuit, that really kicked this thing off down this road. It just feels like you surmised it perfectly when you said the NCAA and the conferences kind of have bluffed their way into this power. And now all of a sudden things are kind of getting turned around, and we're about to venture into a crazy new world, I think, in the world of college athletics.
Hey, yeah. Wild Wild West ish,
and the crazy part amongst all this, at least at the high level of college football, no matter how much we hem and we haw, I feel like everybody's still going to end up watching. I mean, we've talked about the 14-team playoff and how much we kind of don't like the proposal, and we don't like the potential dates, and the NFL is, kind of getting involved and trying to reschedule. At the end of the day, if the games are compelling and the story is compelling, we're still going to watch. And even if it's not that compelling, we're probably still going to watch. And
we're going to watch.
Yeah. And so that's the end all be all at the end of this.
And for the TV networks, that's all that matters. They don't care why you're watching. They only care that you're watching. And I mean, we're going to watch. And you can stand on your morals or whatever else, but really, I'm not real sure why you wouldn't watch. So, we're going to watch NCAA basketball as well, but Yao and I talked, I guess, on Monday about Sankey's proposals to take automatic qualifiers away from mid-major conferences. Tom Izzo here in the last 24 hours has kind of said, maybe we should look at that. Rick Pitino has said, maybe we should look at adding some people that actually know something about college basketball to the selection committees, and referring to Jim Boeheim, Jim Calhoun, and Roy Williams. I don't think any of those guys is necessarily going to be beholden to Indiana State. I just don't understand, other than, as you mentioned a second ago, other than the power grab aspect of this, why we're trying to kill the mid-majors.
Yeah, it's frustrating, right? And
it really is frustrating, and I don't know if it's just frustrating because I'm a mid-major graduate necessarily or what, but it's, as again, Chris and I discussed this on Monday, St. Peter's, George Mason. I mean, the March Madness is littered with stories of mid-major upsets and that kind of thing. Loyola of Chicago a few years back with Sister Jean. I mean, those are the stories that really resonate with the large majority of college basketball viewers. I mean, just another Power 5 program winning a national championship or rolling through the bracket, that's not memorable.
You're right when you with that, but it's an interesting tipping point, in my opinion, at least. It feels like every year the bracket is so much fun, and I forget who surmised it. It was I think it was John Rothstein from CBS that talked about this. Every game is obviously the tournament, basically. I mean, if you lose, you're out. If you win, obviously you keep going. I know that's, breaking it down in its most simplistic terms, but it bears fruit. And the crazy part, though, is there's this kind of axis, and you reach that certain sweet spot. You want the upsets to kind of draw in, yes, the casual fans, and you want the upsets for those Cinderella runs, and it's great storylines for the school, and those small schools can really kind of use that to their marketing and strategy advantage. But at some point, there is kind of something to be said for, at the very, very end, you don't want a Loyola Chicago taking on a Duke or whoever and ending in kind of a dud of a national title game. And we just discussed who kind of really, really ultimately reaps all the benefits from all this is the television networks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes this thing so fun is more often than not, the NCAA tournament, it seems like you find that perfect sweet spot where you have 2 or 3 compelling storylines with Cinderellas. And then as you get deep into the tournament, 1 or 2 may make the Final Four, 1 or 2 may even make the national title game. But at the end, if you get a compelling storyline with some Cinderellas making a run, and then you get 2 powers duking it out for the title, that's really what the NCAA and that's really what the TV networks want. You kind of get your cake and eat it too in that regard, right?
Right. And, look no further than last year. When you get Florida Atlantic and you get San Diego State through to the Final Four and you get UConn as your national champion, which, UConn as blue blood is, kind of a stretch there as well. But, and that's a name that college basketball fans over the last 15, 20, 30 years are familiar with. So as opposed to a Florida Atlantic or a San Diego State. So yeah, that there was kind of your best of both worlds right there. So
well, and the funny part obviously about Izzo bringing it up this year is they have one of the worst Michigan State seasons to still get in the tournament in a long time. And
there are those that would tell you they shouldn't have been in.
I mean, on opening night, they lose to James Madison and everybody's freaking out, saying back then, everybody's saying, hey, I don't know how good this Michigan State team is. And they rallied a little bit and picked themselves a little bit off the mat. They did just enough to sneak into the tournament. Mm-hmm. But I'm with you guys. If you're going to give me Virginia in the tournament over in Indiana State, why not take Indiana State? I mean, if Virginia is going to go no further than a round or 2, what's the point, really? I mean, you're just
or if Virginia is going to get blitzed by 25 in the first 4.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Because again, Indiana State could have done that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't think they would have done that.
No, I think it would have been closer. And if you're not going to have a team, if you make a compelling argument for a team that could make a run beyond the first weekend, okay, I'm willing to consider that. But if you're just talking 2 resumes of a team that's probably going to get bounced in the first round or 2, why not take a shot on a smaller school, in my opinion?
Absolutely. Give them that moment in the sun.
Especially if you're still kind of projecting the illusion of it's for the student athletes and it's kind of for the entire NCAA population at large. I mean, if you want to say what it really is, then just come out and say what it really is. But if you're still trying to project this illusion, then at least give us a little bit of the illusion by including some of the smaller schools.
Absolutely. We had Joe Sullivan on yesterday talking a little Nashville hoops. We talked about Marcus Fitzgerald over at Tennessee State, who is now in the transfer portal. He has company in the form of TSU teammate Jalen Jones, a former East Nashville, I think, Mr. Basketball winner over there. So he is also in the portal, along with Denham Dawson, who transferred in from Nebraska. So TSU has some guys in the portal. So does MTSU. Ozil Jackson is in the portal. Played 9 games, scored 21 points this season after transferring in from Coahoma Community College down in Mississippi. And Tyron Lawrence from Vanderbilt is in the portal, joining Colin Smith, Jason Rivera-Torres, Paul Lewis, and Lee Dort. So the portal is open for business, folks.
Yeah, I mean, does it not kind of tell you if you run a site like Joe does, NashvilleHoops.blog, this is a perfect content carousel, because as soon as the season ends, whether you got teams in locally or not, I mean, I'm scrolling through the site. There's 6 stories, 7 stories just on portal alone. So, I mean, it is its own news cycle now.
Yeah, which has its ups and downs. Because,
for sure.
Again, I've said it on more than one occasion. The NIL, the transfer portal, I'm for the athletes. That said, and I've said this for the past 2 years, they both need tweaking. And guys that are in the transfer portal every year is a bit much. Looking at you, Malik Dia. So, anyway, that's where we're at. I'm sure we'll be talking more transfer portal. I know we'll be talking more NCAA here over the next couple of shows, and we'll try to keep you up to date as we try to stay up to date on both of those. But when we come back here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, it's time to get wild and wacky on this Wednesday. So stay with us when we come back to the Lee Company Studios after this. I'm Maurice Patton, and on Main Street Sports Today, we bring you the voices of your favorite teams from preps to pros. Otherwise known as the VOT, Mike Keith.
The bottom line is we can teach Will Levis woke.
I just don't know who's going to work with you on your base stealing now that Eli's gone.
Well, that has nowhere to go but up. And I was just like, oh, guys, not again. Can we just bury that, burn that footage, and not bring it back?
No. No.
Thank you. We'll keep it going past the All-Star break, and looking forward to seeing how the rest of the season plays out. There's always a good story to tell.
Can you guess where I am today, Mo? Where am I?
It's not Reese Smith Field, is it?
Yeah.
Because anytime you play Chicago, you want to win. That's just
you got that right, and
that's bottom line.
a buzz.
When you're walking the dog, you keep the bags that you need for the dog in the bag, and you don't even have to wear it. You can just hold it, which is what I do when I walk the dog. So
I think the fanny pack probably needed a little rebranding.
It did. It really did.
On your show logo, we've got to get a puck in there. There's a basketball. There's a football. There's a baseball. Maybe if not a puck, how about Mo brandishes a hockey stick?
Tune in daily at 2 p.m. on Main Street Media TV.
The final segment of Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. And so I guess we should probably get wild and wacky. What do you say, Wade?
You know, I'm here for wild and wacky. Our brother Chris Yao this is his domain, but we will certainly try and do our best to live up to that billing today.
Without a doubt. Let's start. You know, I've said that we would be likely to have a Florida entry somewhere in here, and we may or we may not, but we certainly have a Florida element. Maynardville, Tennessee, which is in northeast Tennessee, up past Knoxville. A fisherman at a lake in northeast Tennessee caught a surprise at the end of his line when he pulled up a 3 to 4 foot long alligator. I don't think that's what he was fishing for. TWRA said their Union County wildlife officer, Rick Roberts, got a call from the angler on Monday describing the unusual catch at Norris Lake. Officer got there. The angler had pinned the alligator to the ground behind its head. Told Roberts, I guess we need to get Larry Woody to weigh in on this one. Said he caught it on
I was going to ask about that.
Swim bait. I don't know what swim bait is. I guess, like I said, we'll have to ask Woody about that. He'll know. Alligators are not native to that part of Tennessee and are considered Class 1 wildlife species, which are those that are inherently dangerous to humans and may only be possessed by permitted exhibitors or commercial propagators. The alligator was taken to Little Ponderosa Zoo and Rescue, an exotic animal rescue facility in Clinton, Tennessee, which is, I think, in Anderson County, around Oak Ridge. While the origin of the alligator is unclear, it is evident that it was being illegally held in captivity and possibly released into Norris Lake. The zoo doesn't normally house alligators, so the operators are looking for a permanent home. Maybe that's where Florida comes in.
Florida kind of elements at play, like you said. And I love that too, by the way. the zoo says, you know what, we don't really mess with alligators, so you got to find somewhere else for this thing.
Hey, you ain't got to go home, but you can't stay here.
You cannot, you can't post up shop here. And I love that too. And, you know, how nervous are you if you're the person that potentially, you know, was housing this bad boy and decided enough was enough? At what point did you decide enough was enough? Said, I'm just going to slip this thing into the lake here and, you know, go about my business. And then 4 months later, it's kind of like a scene from a movie. You know, the evidence has now been uncovered here, and they're going back and somebody's gonna be a little nervous up there for illegally housing that gator.
Yeah, somebody that owned an alligator is kind of on shaky ground right now. Yeah, can they trace this back to me? How are they gonna trace this back to me? Yeah.
Hey, keeping things in the nature realm. You know, weather's getting warmer. And folks getting outdoors, folks doing a lot of activities.
You know, yesterday was the first day of spring.
I guess officially,
it didn't feel like it necessarily, but yeah.
No, I didn't necessarily walk out and think, "Ooh, today feels like the first day of spring."
Exactly. Yeah.
But you know, as everybody's getting outdoors, folks going to be getting to the well, pardon me here. Folks will be maybe swarming to the tennis courts, and. It's only fitting that if you're going to be getting outdoors, you probably wouldn't want to be at over in Indian Wells, California, where the B&B Paribus Open has been taking place, and a 2-hour tennis disruption after a swarm of bees interrupted a match between two of your top players in the world, Carlos Alcaraz and Alexander Zverev. So a professional match was halted for 2 hours, not just halted for 10 minutes, not just halted for, 30 minutes, halted for 2 hours. And I got to go check the clip on this because Alcaraz, again, he's one of the great young players, the Spaniard, swatting. I'm picturing this. He's swatting at the bees before running for cover. The match was suspended, tied 1-1. So how about that? You're out there playing and you're like, wait a second, I felt something buzzing around my head. Oh yeah, that's a swarm of bees.
A swarm of bees. So I'm taking two things away from this. One, Alcaraz won in less time than the match was delayed.
Yeah.
And two, I know you've seen Tommy Boy Wade.
I was thinking it, partner.
Bees, save yourself. Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Players left the court when they returned. Chair umpire said there were still some bees. Zverev then says, hey, my side of the court is fine. I'm sure he wanted to take that to his advantage there. But I love that, too. They got a bee vacuumer.
A bee vacuumer. So apparently this has been an issue before? I mean, who has a bee vacuumer? Do they have a bee vacuumer at Wimbledon?
I don't think so. Where do you apply to become the bee vacuumer? It says this person, when they came back, he posed for selfies with fans. And Alcaraz and Zverev kind of just couldn't help but watch and probably were thinking, hey, better him than me.
Right. Yeah.
But
he's getting paid for this. Yeah.
So you go out, you buy these nice fancy box seats to sit down and watch a nice tennis match, best in the world, and you got a 2-hour delay because of bees.
Bees. I guess folks were buzzing about that match, right?
We need the rim shot.
Yeah. Keeping it again in the wildlife realm. Employees at the Richmond Wildlife Center in Virginia are doing their best to act like mother foxes as they feed and care for an orphan kit that found her way into their care. You've got animal caregivers, I guess, for lack of a better word, dressing up as foxes. They have fox costumes taking care of this kit. Minimizing human sounds, creating visual barriers, and taking other precautions. It's important to make sure that the orphans that are raised in captivity do not become imprinted upon or habituated to humans. all those measures make it more likely the kit could be reintroduced into the wild someday. Where do you find a fox costume?
I'm wondering that. And I'm also wondering, that one or two of the coworkers were really all about this idea, but then there were one or two that were like,
really not.
This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I don't want any part of this. I'm showing up just trying to do my 9 to 5 here at the office, and now I got to wear a fox costume. Like, what are we doing?
Staff at the Wildlife Center have been taking turns feeding the kid every 2 to 4 hours, all while wearing the fox mask. In addition to the large stuffed animal meant to mimic the kit's mother, staff also put a smaller stuffed red fox in her enclosure. She cuddles up to the smaller stuffed animal at the end of the video that's been shot of this. So, hey, I will say this, though. Kudos to them for their dedication to trying to ensure that this kit can be released back into the wild. So,
yes, that obviously it is always a heartwarming thing when you see, and veterinary care is obviously a tremendous industry. My only question is, where did you say this story originated again?
It's in Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.
I'm wondering, this is a bit of a stretch here, but hear me out. If after what we saw last night on TV, if we don't have some folks that show up in gym shoes or sneakers and go out to the basketball court on the campus of Virginia dressed as, dare I say, real NCAA tournament basketball players and mimic and try and maybe get the Virginia men's basketball team back to life and reindoctrinated, maybe that's what will be enough to get them back to winning NCAA tournament games, because we certainly didn't see it last night.
If that's what it takes, yeah, let's do that. Wade, you want to close this thing out? Bring it home?
It's been a wild and wacky Wednesday, which is kind of fitting, honestly, that we have one final bit of wild and wackiness before we send this thing into March Madness, because this is kind of the fun part. A lot of folks kind of poo-poo and sour on college basketball for the first 3-4 months of the season. But every year, come March, it brings us right into this. So I think it's only fitting that Wild and Wacky is the last segment, because this time tomorrow, there will already have been a couple of March Madness games played and underneath our belt, which I think is going to be exciting.
More than a couple, probably. Again, I don't have the schedule in front of me, but they typically start up around 11 or 12 our time. So
I think first game's at 11:10 tomorrow.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of people going to be taking the next couple of days off probably, so you can turn us on and listen to us while you watch your game and put it on mute, because we'll be more fun anyway. But
yeah, first game tomorrow, Mo, is Michigan State, Mississippi State. Tips off at 11:15, so right into the thick of things over there in Charlotte.
I think MSU is probably going to win that ball game.
I feel like MSU will probably come away with a victory in that one.
Yeah. So, all right. Let's go ahead. Since producer Mark is playing us off, we'll go ahead and get off. But we will have Independence boys basketball coach Mark Wilkins joining us in Coach's Corner tomorrow. We will also be visiting with Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14, as we'll once again talk a little March Madness. So again, 2 o'clock tomorrow. Be here. We will see you then.